Hi everyone, this is Brittnee Bond, and welcome back to the podcast. Today is going to be a very magical, spiritual, woo-woo podcast. So if you're not into any of those things, I'm just giving you a big heads up right now. This might not be the podcast for you. If you are here for the spiritual downloads, for the embodiment of the queen archetype and the high priestess archetype and being in your power as a woman, this is a podcast for you. So this podcast, I want to specifically talk about my going to the Temple of Isis in Egypt. I wanted to go to the pyramids and I want to go to the Temple of Isis. These were the two things I wanted to do in Egypt. The second one happened towards the end of the trip. I was there for 3 weeks. So I shared in the last two podcasts about a lot of the stories that happened, a lot of me just understanding what it was like to be a woman in Egypt, to be this version of myself, like me as a sexually empowered woman in Egypt. And the softening that came with that, and allowing men to show up for me, and the embodiment that came with that. And a big key part of this, of the embodiment of the queen archetype, of the high priestess archetype, is when I went to the Temple of Isis. So let's talk about that. Before I go into that, first off, I want to say that the men that I was traveling with, a big shout out to them, every single step of the way in these 3 weeks, specifically Jimmy, the friend that I came from Egypt with, he would ask me throughout the trip, "Are you happy? Do you have everything you need? Do you feel good in your body?" And to have someone with you 24/7, constantly making sure that you are okay, that you are happy, that you are safe, that all of your dreams are coming true, and just going above and beyond of, I didn't have any expectations, but just like anything that I could ever have imagined, it really helped set up the feeling and helped me embody the feeling of just being a woman fully in her power. Because I want to point out here that you can be a woman fully in your power on your own in the world. I've done this for many years, in and out of relationships. And because of how I was raised, it was really important for me to prove to myself that I was fully in my power as an individual, as a sovereign being in this world, not connected to the men in my life, not connected to a husband, a partner, a religion, a job, a culture, just like me as an individual, as Brittnee Ann Bond, that was I fully in my power as a person. And when you're on a pursuit and you're on a journey to be fully in your power and to prove to yourself that you can do it on your own, this comes sometimes, a lot of times, with pushing away people who actually want to help you and that have your best interests at heart. Because for me, I'll just speak for myself. When I was this stubborn and this focused, I'm very stubborn and I'm very focused. So if I have a goal, or if I have a mission, I call it my missions, my personal missions, and I feel like someone's getting in the way of that, I will just like push them out of the way, or I will run away, one of the two things, whatever needs to happen first. Sometimes both at once. And I'm recognizing now, after being in Egypt, how a lot of this was me pushing away people, specifically men, who actually loved me and actually just wanted to show up for me. But I wasn't able to differentiate between them. Like, I wasn't able to tell within my psyche whether they had my best interests at heart, and my radar and my protectors were just like, nope, you need to go. Like, I need to do this on my own. And also, I think there was moments in my life where I really did need to do it on my own. I needed to prove to myself that I could carry this life by myself, that I could pay for myself, that I could take care of myself. And I'm not saying that this is everyone's journey. I don't know. I don't know if every single woman needs to do this. I do know that this was my journey, and that is something I want to honor for myself, because I was raised in an environment that was so controlling and so abusive and so constrictive of my feminine energy, of my feminine power. I felt like I needed to do that I needed to have space. I needed to have energetic space, sometimes physical space, in order to create an environment for myself where I felt safe to unfold. All of that being said, I recognize now that in order for a woman in this world, if you want to live on an island with other women, if you want to be by yourself and you don't want to interact with other people, that's fine. You will probably hit your fullest potential as a woman if you want to be on your own. If you want to interact in this world, which also includes men and includes a patriarchy that we are still dismantling to this day, if you want to do that and you really want to rise to your full potential as a woman, and by that I mean rise, I mean fully unfold, because when a woman is rising to her full potential, she is actually unfolding. Like, it's, imagine a spiral and like a flower who's like blooming and blossoming and like unfolding. If in order for her to feel safe to do that, she needs to have a safe container to unfold. And in order to have a safe container to unfold, you can't really be making art. How do I put this in a way that makes sense? It's like a child, I'll speak about children right now. Like, a child is in its most purest form when it knows that it has parents and it has caregivers who's watching after it. When you see a child on a playground that's like playing freely, it's because it knows that mom or dad or whoever is watching after it. When you see a child freak out on a playground, it's probably because it starts noticing there's no one around that's creating that safe container for it. There's no one that's protecting it. And so it's a funny illustration, but this is the first one that came to my mind. But I really actually, and it's humbling for me to say this, right? Because as a woman who's fully in my power and who's always preaching for women to be fully in their power and like doing my best to aid this in the world and to help women step into their power, my first reaction is I want to say that we can do it on our own. And I am saying that, like, you can hit a certain level of your fullest potential on your own. If you want to hit your fullest potential, this might not be something you want to hear, but this is what I've learned from being in Egypt. If you want to hit your fullest potential as a woman, you need to allow the men in your life to show up for you and to create that safe container so that you don't have to be watching around you to make sure you're safe. You can just unfold and you can keep, spiraling higher and higher and higher in a vibrational reality, and to get the downloads and to receive. Because this is why men are so good at 3D reality, because they are meant to hold this container for us. As women, we have a direct connection to source, to God, to spirit, because we birth life through us. Our bodies are literal portals connected to spirit. In order for us to feel safe to open those portals, we need to feel safe that the men around us are protecting us and watching the outside world to make sure nothing's going to get us when we really unfold and we open up like that. And I felt that I really embodied this in Egypt, because for most of the trip, 99% of the trip, I was surrounded by the men that I was traveling with that were protecting me, providing for me, and handling a lot of situations I didn't find out until later, where there was very intense situations that were avoided, dangerous situations that I wasn't aware of that we were walking through. And it's because they were creating this such a safe container for me that I could just be looking at the pyramids or by the Temple of Isis and just get the downloads. I didn't have to think about anything else. I didn't have to worry about anything, because I felt and I embodied a sense of safety, that I was taken care of and I was protected, and I knew I was. And I literally had this corrective experience in Egypt with all of these men that were showing up for me. And so when I went to the Temple of Isis, so we went to Cairo, we went to Alexandria, we went back to Cairo. I redid the whole thing with the pyramids because I only was able to go for like 10 minutes the first time. So we drove back and we spent a whole half a day at the pyramids. I went inside the big pyramid. I meditated right next to the sarcophagus. I felt so much energy going through my body. I was getting a lot of downloads. And yet I still was like, okay, this is nice, but this wasn't like life-changing to go to the pyramids. Like, I'm just putting out there that there's magic there. I don't think that it's like, and I don't know if it's because there's so many tourists coming through. I don't know what it is. I mean, there's also the research I've done that, back in the day, there used to be the whole top cap of the pyramids used to have gold on top of it, which is an antenna for the energy to come through. Like, the actual pyramids are energy receptors, and many thousands, I don't know time, whatever, we don't know, but someone came through and stripped all the gold So they took the actual gold off of the top of the pyramids, which has fucked with the energy. And so it's not as good of an energy receptor. And some people even say this is why the energy in Cairo is very, very chaotic, because it's the pyramids are amplifying the energy there, but the energy isn't able to flow through in the way where it's, grounded and solid. It's kind of like an antenna receiving energy, but in a very chaotic way where you're getting a lot of static. So energetically, that's kind of how it feels in Cairo. And then we went back down to Hurghada because my friends are based there. And then Jimmy and I decided to drive down to the Temple of Isis, which from Hurghada, which I was saying a lot in one of my last podcasts, that Hurghada is kind of like the Cancun of Egypt. It's like a resort town with lots of beautiful beaches, hotels, like all-inclusive hotels, but it's not a very spiritual place. So I was like, I came here for spiritual things. I need to go. And so we drove. It's about 6 hours one way from Hurghada to the area where the Temple of Isis is. The region is called Aswan, Aswan. And in order to get to the Temple of Isis, it was in this area that the Nile River is, and the Nile River kept flooding. Like every couple of years, the Nile River would like flood the whole region and kill a bunch of people. So, side note, they used to sacrifice virgins to the water back in the day, like way back in the day, in order to try and appease the gods in the water to make them stop like or flooding the area, because they were thinking that the gods were just angry. And so every year they would like sacrifice a virgin, like literally kill a woman and give her to the water. Happy they don't do that anymore. But anyways, in order to stop the water from flooding, the president made a dam there. So like actually like a wall, and made it so that the water stays in, and then they just like slowly let the water out every week or every couple weeks. Because there is a dam there now, the original temple where the original temple of Isis is actually, for most of the time, I would say 3 weeks out of every month, like when the water is up before they let it out, it's actually underwater. So in the 1970s, the UNESCO World Heritage made a project where a lot of countries got together, and they physically moved brick by brick the entire, not the entire, but like the major part of the temple to a hill right next to it. Like just, maybe, I don't know, like very close by. Like you can walk from, if it's not underwater, you can walk like within 2 minutes from the original site to where it is on the hill. And it's like, so then if you want to get to the Temple of Isis, so we get there, we drive 6 hours, and you go, and there's like all these like, it's like a tourist trap there. Like there's tons of people trying to sell you stuff like clothes and jewelry and statues. And then there's boatmen who are also trying to scam you. And Jimmy knows, understands. He'd never been down there before. So it was also fun for him to explore this area. But he understood that that it was like normal for them to try and like, especially because they saw me like charge way more. So he like negotiated a really good deal for us. We get in the boat. You have to pay. It's like 10 euros to have an entrance to the temple, but you have to also pay the boat people. So there's a lot of things here happening. And again, I'm just there sitting there drinking my water and my tea while he's negotiating with the boatman, and like they're yelling at each other in Arabic, but then at the end of it they're laughing and hugging each other, and I'm just like, this is a very Egyptian scene that I don't understand. And then he's like, okay, let's go. We get in the boat and we go to the temple. So we're going to the new temple is what they call it, which is like I was saying, it's been like brick by brick, dismantled and remantled. And when I get there, and I've shared some of this in my Insta stories, but like when I got there, I just immediately started crying. I was like, I just felt, like for most of my life, I have felt like an alien in this life. And I just felt like I'm doing my best to like pretend like I'm human and to get along with humans and figure out why I'm here, why I chose to incarnate here. And there hasn't been that many physical locations where I actually feel in my body that I feel at home. And this was one of the very few times in my life where I got there and just like physically in my body, I was like, I want to live here. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I finally feel at home here. And like energetically and like spiritually, like literally in my soul, it like remembered. I was remembering so many. I felt, and also I put on meditation music that's like Akashic Records, binaural beats. It's on Spotify. If you want it, you can message me. I'll send you the link. I was like playing this on loop. So it was like all these binaural beats, like Akashic, like it was like activating everything. And what I felt in my body was that I have been here before. I have been in this temple before, like not in this physical body, obviously, but my soul, like in past lives, I was like, yeah, like I lived here. I worshipped here. This was my place. I was part of this temple. And when I like put my hands on the walls, like they say, I was studying and reading this book and they were saying that like when they're doing magic in the temple, like every single part of the wall is encrypted with, like carvings of different things. And they're like some of them are actual recipes for magic, like literal, like recipes, like a spell book is on the wall basically. Some of them are depicting like different scenes that happens back in the day when the temple was made, or like normal things that would happen, like the pharaoh come in offering sacrifices to the temple, to the goddess of Isis, and just like I would like put my hand on the wall and I would just feel energy going through my body, and just like this recognition, like I've been here, like this is my home, this is part of my soul, this is part of my lineage, you know. And they say that like because there is so much magic and so many rituals that have been done there over thousands and thousands of years, that the energy and the magic is still in the walls, and you can feel it when you go in there. And again, like I was saying in a previous podcast, like a lot of the security guards and a lot of the people who are working at the temple, they don't want you to meditate there because they know that magic is real. They're not fucking around. They do not want some foreigner white girl to come in there and do some witchy like black magic and like fuck with the spirits that are in the temple. No. They just want you to like go take a photo and leave. They're like, please just leave. So Jimmy ended up talking to the security guards and was just like explaining to them. He actually told them, this is really funny. He told them that I was a witch woman from the United Nations, or like from the embassy of the United States. And that so they have these people in Egypt that can go and like, you know, touch a wall and tell the people like there's gold behind this wall, or like go find somewhere in the ground and be like, there's gold down here. There's like statues down here. And this is a very well known and like respected job in Egypt. And so he was telling them that I was one of these people, that I was like coming from the embassy in the US, and then I came to like connect to the magic there, and that basically like you need to leave me alone and to let me meditate. So they let me meditate there. And when I was meditating, I had my headphones on, so I didn't hear this, but I started coughing. And this, for me, when I cough is like when I'm clearing energy in my body. And I started coughing like really hard. And Jimmy told me, he was waiting like outside of the inner sanctum, like the inner room. And he said that there was like all these cats that started to like gather around the door, like near me. And that when I was coughing, they were also coughing. Like they mirrored me. And he was just like looking around, and the security guard was getting like really scared. And that there was all these birds that also like gathered around the inner doorway, and they were just kind of like watching over me. And if you look at the carvings in the temple, there's always cats in the carvings, and also there's always birds. And I just felt like I felt like I came home. I don't know how else to say it. But I was receiving all of these downloads and like all of these past lives. And there was a very specific memory that I have of me being in the temple and needing to step into a more place of leadership, and like wanting to have my freedom, but also knowing that my people needed me. And I felt that in this moment when I was meditating. I was like, okay, it's time. It's time to stop fucking around. It's time to stop playing these ego games. It's just time to serve and to just be myself completely. And I hope that I know that you can recognize that my podcast now, like since I've been to Egypt from before, vibrationally, they are different. because I don't have anything to prove anymore. I know who I am. I know where I come from, and I know what I'm meant to do here. And also, I just want to make a little side note joke that like Isis did not tell me to impregnate 2 women. Like I made a podcast about how Aubrey Marcus went to the Temple of Isis and he was like, Isis told me to impregnate 2 women at once. No. I don't believe in that stuff. And also I didn't get any messages like that. What I got was like a felt sense that like I have been here before and I know what I need to do in this lifetime. And I know why I came into this life in such a body that is so activated sexually. You know, I have so much sexual energy and I'm so deeply connected to my body and my pleasure. And it was showing me that this is what they used to do. Like the pharaohs, the kings used to come to the temple there and they would make love with the high priestess in the temple. And I've always known this. And I've just known this intuitively. And I was getting all these downloads there and showing like how they were literally doing sex magic. And they were literally like creating spells through all of the pleasure that they were giving and receiving in this temple. And then, so we were there for a couple hours and I was just living my best life. Like Jimmy was talking to all the security guards. Every time they tried to come over and make me stop meditating or do something witchy, they kept trying. Every new one kept trying to like talk to me, and he would just be like, no, and like, you know, bring them over. So he was like totally helping like deflect a lot of the attention, so I could just be in my own bubble of reality. And then when we were leaving the temple, we were going to get on the boat and we were going to drive right and go 6 hours back to Hurghada. And we got on the boat and I looked over across the water and I saw what looked like a cafe or a hotel or something. And I just pointed and I was like, I want to go there. And I didn't care if it was just to look at it or to eat there. I didn't care. I just was like, my body was like, I just want to go there. And he was like, okay. So Jimmy tells the boat guy to take us to this, what ends up being like a super beautiful, gorgeous hotel, which I shared on my Insta story. Maybe I will put here. And we go there and I was like, I want to stay here. I want to stay here the night. I don't know why, but I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to leave this area and I can't sleep at the temple. I would if I could, but I can't. So I want to stay here. And so we end up staying in like their best room, like overlooking the temple and eating like amazing food. And I just sat on the balcony and I just meditated like all night long and was just staring at the temple. And I was like getting so much energy. I felt like I was like making love to the temple. And I also just kind of felt like a little kid. I was just so happy. It was the happiest I was. I want to cry now, but it was like the happiest I was on my trip to Egypt. And I was like the happiest I can remember myself being. Like I was just like, you know, for so much of my life, I'm just like, I have open ego on the human design. So if you know human design, you'll understand this. But there's a lot of times where I'm like, am I doing enough? It doesn't matter how much I'm doing. It doesn't matter how much I'm serving. I'm always like, am I on my path? Am I doing enough? And when I was sitting there and I was connecting to the temple, I was just like, there's no way I've ever been off path. Like I've always been on path. And it was just me not trusting my body and doubting myself. My body has always guided me exactly where I needed to go. And it was just me not trusting it. And when I was there, that just went away. I'm like, what was I thinking? That's the point. I was thinking I wasn't feeling. As a woman, we need to connect to our feelings. That is, and to work with our feelings and to be grounded in our feelings. Like I think also as women, because we have so much shame around feeling our feelings, a lot of times we suppress it to the point where it overwhelms. And then it becomes like, they call it chaos magic, where you're manifesting stuff, but is it actually what you want? And are you actually feeling good in your body? Probably not, because you're just so upset at everyone that now it's just chaos. And then the shame comes in of like, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I shouldn't have acted that way. And then you start suppressing again and the cycle starts over. But when you're grounded in your feelings and you're just allowing yourself to honor what feels good in your body in every moment, that's your true feminine power. And when you're allowing yourself to be guided by your pleasure, that's true feminine power. So the next thing I want to share is the next day we went to what was the original temple ground. So like I was saying, it's like if there was no water, it's probably a 2-minute walk, but it's underwater at this point. Like the boatman told us that like in 1 or 2 weeks, like the water will be low enough that for some of it you can walk around the old temple, the original temple. But at this point, there's no water. Like all you can see is like the top of the temple gates. So we take the boat over there the next day, and we drive to where like the original temple site is. And the boatman tells us, do not get in the water. And I was like, but I want to get in the water. Like immediately when someone tells me don't do this, I'm like, I want to do that. And Jimmy is telling me like, no, Brittnee, you cannot get. He knows me. He knows how stubborn I am. So he's like, please do not get in the water here. And I was like, why? And he said, recently they had 7 tourists get in the water, like, swim in the water. Because it's the Nile River. You can swim. It's very clean water. Some people even drink the water. A lot of the Egyptians feel like a very strong connection to the Nile River because they say that it's like the original source of life is water. It's the original water source, and so it's the original connection to like life source. And there's a saying in Arabic that if you drink the Nile River, if water from the Nile River, you will always come back to Egypt because you're always connected to Egypt at that point energetically. But anyways, apparently 7 tourists went swimming there recently, and all of them died. Like the boatmen described them being sucked underwater, and I want to say here that like the boat people, like all of the people there are very grounded, rational people, but they're describing things that don't make any rational sense, right? And so what they explained to me is that when the temple got moved, like when the original temple was built, there's certain magic protection entities that were put in place to protect the temple. And when it got moved physically, these entities got activated. And so when you go there, they're very angry that the temple has been moved. And so if people are there, and also if they have ill intentions, then they will fuck with you. You can take whatever you need from that and leave the rest. Like if you believe that or don't, I don't really care. But for me, I didn't get in the water. And also we went to like the original temple. So that there's like this main area where the people died. And then you can go a little bit out of that. And there's the original temple gates. And these were out of the water. And the boatman said that the temple gates are okay. Like they have talk to the spirits in the water, and like they're okay because you're not inside the temple gates. So we got out, we were swimming. I was swimming around the temple gates, and I wanted to sit on top of the temple gates. So I asked Jimmy in the boat guy, I'm like, can you help me up? So they pulled me up out of the water, and I got out like fast, and I went to stand up, and I hit my head like right here. I don't know if you can see, but I hit my head like on top of the temple gate, and it actually made an imprint like in my head. Like there's like these decorations in the statues that are kind of like a flower, and it was like imprinted in my head for 2 days, and my head hurt so bad like in that spot. And I was asking myself like, why did this happen? Because I don't know. And also like it was really weird because 2 other times right before that, when we were coming to this specific temple site, the original temple, I hit my knee and my ankle in the boat, which I still have bruises on my feet, on my ankle and my knee. And then so this is the 3rd thing that happened where I was like hitting myself. And I'm not necessarily a clumsy person. So I even like asked ChatGPT later. I was like, I asked ChatGPT, you can laugh about that. But I was like, why did I hit my head? And it was saying that it was an initiation, and that also maybe I wasn't like I was pushing maybe too much to go there because the magic there is very strong, and it was kind of telling me to like slow down because I was just like, I want to go in the water. I want to go to the original temple. I want to, because I was just so excited, So I slowed down. And this is also something that's super trippy. So I put on my headphones. I was sitting in the shade, like around the corner of, like, on top of the temple gate. And Jimmy and the boatman are in the boat. And I tell Jimmy, I'm like, I want to meditate here and I want to do some magic. And so he tells the boatman, like, she's going to do some magic. Like, don't be scared. And so I put my headphones on, I put on meditation music. I start doing some magic stuff. And I didn't see this because my eyes were closed, but Jimmy told me that the water in front of me started swirling, like literally like swirling and being really chaotic. And the boatman saw it and was like, no, 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 I want to leave. Like, I'll just leave you guys here. I'll come back when you're done. Like, I don't want to be part of this. And Jimmy told him, like, it's okay. It's okay. She is doing good magic. Like, it's okay. And I felt that this is when my mission felt complete, when it comes to Egypt, because meditating there, like when I was in the new temple, like where they moved it, I felt the energy. But when I was there at the original temple gates, and I really felt like everything kind of lock into place energetically and like align. And I was like, I had so much energy going through my body that I couldn't stop coughing. And the boatman also got really scared of this because he recognized that this was like not normal. He was telling Jimmy, like, that sounds like it was not her voice. It doesn't, like, is she being possessed? And he's like, no, no, it's fine. She's just moving like energy through her body. But I was getting so many downloads and I was just like, yeah. Some of this I don't want to share publicly because it's still unfolding in my psyche. But let's just say that I understand how I am meant to show up here in the collective, and I understand what my mission is, and I understand how it's going to shift things. And I'm very grounded in this reality, and I'm very excited, like in a grounded way. I'm very excited because I just know, I understand. And I understand that I'm fully supported and that I chose this timeline many, 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 many lifetimes ago. And that this is a really epic, beautiful timeline that we are in as a collective. Like, every single one of us has an opportunity to be main characters in what's about to happen next. Or you can just sit on your couch and complain about your life and be a victim. I mean, it's like whatever you want to choose is your reality. Every single one of us is choosing our reality. So, yeah. Something else I want to share is, like, when we went back to, we ended up staying at this hotel for 2 nights. And one of the nights we went down, Jimmy and I went down to the water, and we were just like eating fruit and drinking smoothies and just talking about all the spiritual downloads. He's also super spiritual. And this fish came up to me, and this fish started like this tiny little fish, like probably as big as my thumb. And it was like started swimming like towards me. And Jimmy was like, I think that fish wants to come talk to you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I like go down, and the fish just comes into my hand, and I look at it, and it like lets me pick it up. And I was like, what is going on? And then I look at the side of it, and like a huge chunk of it was like bitten out, like something had bit it. And my immediate reaction was like, oh my gosh, I want to help you. Like, are you okay? Like, what do I do? And Jimmy was like, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't look like it hit like a major organ or something. Like, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can really do to help it, but just, give it your love or whatever. And so I was like holding it in the water so that it could breathe, but I was just kind of like, I love you. I'm sending you positive energy. And then I just let it go, and it kind of just swam away. And I was asking myself, like, why did that? There were so many things like this. I can't remember all of them, but there's so many things like this where like the nature was speaking to us, and I was asking myself, like, why was this happening? And I feel like, I mean, I can only speak to like my reaction to it was like, I want to help. Are you okay? Like, how can I help you? And we, something I didn't say yet, but was like, when we were in a different city, we met one of my friend's uncles, kind of an uncle, I don't know, spiritual uncle, who is one of these people that like goes and like finds the doorway and the portal and like, is very connected to spirit. And he did like a reading on me, and he was telling me like, you're going to help the world in a way that you're not doing. He said it was unrelated to anything I'm doing right now, that there's going to be a major problem in the world and I'm going to help. And I definitely I definitely understand that now. And a lot of things are clicking in that place. And I think the if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, okay, that's all great, but like what can I take home from this podcast? And what I want to share with you is like, if you have an intuition, if your body is telling you to go to this place and you don't know why, and like for me, like going to Egypt was actually pretty scary. Like I was nervous, excited because I knew I needed to go there. Like I felt very called to go there, and I felt like it was important for me to go there. And also I felt scared. My physical mind was scared because I was like, it's not a super safe country for women. I don't know anyone there initially. Like, I don't even really know where I'm meant to go, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm so grateful that I listened to the calling and that I went. Like, this is what I want to say to you. It's like, if your intuition, if your body, if your soul is telling you to go somewhere and doesn't even make sense, that means there's even more magic there. If you don't even understand rationally in your brain why you need to go, that means there's an even bigger upgrade for you there. And all you have to do is decide that you're going to trust the universe and decide that you're going to go. And then you allow God, source, your soul, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, to show up and put the rest of the puzzle pieces in place. Because for me, when I came to Europe, I told everyone, I'm like, I'm going to Egypt. And they're like, well, who are you going with? What are you doing there? And I was like, I don't know. And I just decided I was going to go. I knew I needed to go from a soul level. And then I allowed the universe, God, to put the rest of the pieces into place for me. And I'm so grateful that I did. And I also want to put a shout out to my friends that I traveled with. They actually they are tour guides. So it's interesting because they're normally tour guides for like, like seeing like major, like not spiritual things. I'll say like going to the pyramids, but a lot of people go there not necessarily for a spiritual reason, and just like going around Egypt, but just for fun, like for holiday. But I wanted to go on a spiritual mission. And so I kind of initiated them into what a person needs if they want to go on a spiritual quest to Egypt. And they were telling me like, if you have any of your friends that want to do this, like let me know and stuff like that. So if any of you also feel called to go to Egypt and you're like, yeah, I don't know who I'd go with or what I would do, please reach out to me and I can connect you with them, because I 100% give them my full stamp of approval that they are safe and that they will make sure you get the best deals. They will give you the best deal. They will make sure you're safe, like physically, energetically, all the things. And also I showed them what people want when they're on the spiritual side quest. So they understand that we want quiet places to meditate, and we want to be able to, go through it in a calm way. And also we want to see the spiritual stuff. We want to feel the spiritual stuff. We want to connect to our soul in these locations physically. Yeah. Wow. There's so much more I could share, but I also just want to say that sex magic is real. So if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend to start researching that. I also coach people on sex magic. So if you're ever interested in this, if you want to talk about your sexuality in any way, please reach out. This is literally what I'm here for. By the time this podcast is published, I don't know. I think I will be doing the play party tomorrow by the time this is published. But I have one more play party here in Berlin, July 5th, this weekend. And I'm super excited for it. I just realized, while I was at the Temple of Isis, I'm I literally am making high priestess temples. That's what I'm doing on these play parties, because there's no penetration, because it's heart open, because literally a lot of you don't realize, but I'm doing magic on the whole situation while it's happening and just making sure everyone's safe. That's really what I'm doing magic on. It's just holding the container energetically. And the rest of the time you are showing up and you are creating this beautiful magical experience. So it also kind of reaffirmed to me, it did reaffirm to me that I'm completely on path. I've always been guided and everything is always working out exactly the way it needs to in the divine timing. This is also something I learned on this trip, is I had my plan for how I wanted the trip to go, and the universe had a whole other plan. It was you need to go at this pace, you need to go at this speed. And something I've had to recognize a lot in myself is that there is my physical mind and like how fast I want to go in my life. And then there is like what my body and my spirit actually need. And that's something, if you want to take that away from this podcast, is like, there is always a divine timing for you to go on whatever journey you need to go on. Like I wanted to go to Egypt 8 years ago. I had a plane ticket 8 years ago. And then I wanted to go 5 years ago. And I was literally flying from New York City to Egypt, and I was on my layover here in Germany. And when I was on my layover, they told me that they closed the borders to Egypt. I was not allowed in. And I feel now that this all happened perfectly at divine timing, because I went exactly when I was ready for it. And that's exactly how everything actually is in your life, if you can look at it from a higher perspective. Everything's happening exactly when you're ready for it. When you're ready to receive the downloads, when you're ready to release the trauma, when you're ready, when you're ready, when you're ready. And only until then is it going to happen. And only then will it happen. Okay, I'm going to go. I have so many friends visiting here in Berlin this week for the play party. So many of you are flying in for the play party. It makes me so happy. And I need to go meet one of you. You're coming in from the airport now. And we're going to have fun. So reach out to me if you want to do a human design reading. Reach out to me if you don't know what a human design reading is. Reach out to me if you want to do coaching. Reach out to me if you want to join a play party. Just reach out. Follow me on Instagram at Brittnee Bond. Please comment on these videos, like them, share them. I am here to serve. I'm here to share and to serve and to honor my experience, and hopefully it helps your experience in this beautiful, crazy timeline that we are in this life. So this is Brittnee Bond signing off, and I hope you have a beautiful day.